Forrest, do you want to get into our first call? We'll just dive right into it.
I'm ready whenever you are, man.
Let's do it. Let's take Charles in Canada. Pronouns are he, him, and wants to talk about the Bible supporting evolution. How you doing, Charles?
I'm into it. Hey, Charles.
Hey, how are you? Hey, man, how are you?
Doing good.
Yeah, good.
So your claim is that you think that the Bible supports. You think the Bible supports evolution? So could you kind of lay out your claim?
Yeah. So in Genesis, so as we know, it's when everything came to be, evolution. The first creatures began in water, right? They call it the primordial soup or whatever, but it was water nonetheless, right? So the Bible says God creates everything. It says God says, let there be, let there be. But then in this verse, it says, and God says, let the waters bring forth the moving creature that hath life. So right there, he's contributing the first moving creatures in the existence of the earth to the water, right? Which is significant in itself, right? Then he goes from the waters. Yeah. So then he goes from the waters. He says, all the great whales, blah, blah, blah. He says, and then let the fowl multiply in the air. So they haven't even gotten to the earth. And he's already talking about the waters bringing forth creatures and abundantly, and then the fowls of the air. Then he goes on to say, let the fowls multiply in the earth, right? Then he gives the day. So that day is over. The time frame is over. The day after that, he says, let the earth bring forth the moving creature, the cattle, creeping thing, everything after his time. So I think that it's explaining how life came to be, hence started in the water, went to the sky, came down to the earth, which is why with the early dinosaurs, we see they're actually starting to put feathers on the dinosaurs now, right? Because they think it's spawned from birds, right? You follow?
I'm not really following how this is supporting like evolution. I'm not seeing like some prediction that's being made or like talking about anything like specific. Like, like some people will talk about. Well, hold on real quick. Some people talk about like the Quran, for example, like they'll say like expanse or something, and they'll say this is like evidence of the Big Bang. But I'm kind of detecting a similar issue. It just seems very vague what you're saying. I'm not seeing like any prediction. Like it'd be cool if it was like abundance of light elements or something, which is going to be predicted in some model, or like with you saying it supports evolution. Like at least Forrest could probably speak to this better than myself, but I don't really see like what is great about taking something and retrofitting it onto data that the Bible doesn't do any work for. It didn't produce any of the predictions that you're just kind of like looking and going, oh, see here, this fits with my preconceived belief. It doesn't seem like.
Yeah, I was looking away from the camera for a minute because I wanted to pull up my Bible thing over here because like it does say that animals came out of the water in chapter 2, but in chapter 1 it said that he made all the animals out of the ground. So like as easily as you can point to this one part and say that kind of almost sounds like what science says, you can also point to literally the page right before that and have something that's completely ridiculous in the same book. And it's the same, the same book of the same book with two completely different stories, one of which almost sounds right and one very doesn't.
Yeah, and I think it would
reiteration though, right? The point is don't you think
reiteration if it says two different things?
Sorry? It's a reiteration.
It's not a reiteration if it says two different things.
Well, so where does it say the other thing? Can you give me the exact location of that?
It was chapter 1, I think 19. I've already closed the thing. Yeah, I think it was 119. I'm pretty sure. If not, I can go grab my Bible or I actually have the notes in it. I just looked it up online and it took a minute.
Yeah, so let the waters bring forth the moving creature that hath life is in Genesis 1:19, right? So that's
okay. So then it must be. Maybe I got it backwards.
I think you got it backwards. So don't you find it significant though that the Bible explains long before we had any inclination or any scientific testing or any observations that the Bible claims that life originated in water? Don't you find that like undeniably significant?
There is a Lakota creation story that sounds an awful lot like accretion of planetary bodies and the production of water from carbonaceous chondrites and evolution. It's all in there. Does that make the Lakota story more true than the Bible? because it's got a lot more in there that really sounds great.
Story. I'd have to read it and see, but I mean, I find it very significant that God says.
So I do have some like I pulled the same page up here. Here is chapter Genesis 1:25. Humans are made after the other animals, which would, I guess, kind of track, not really, but whatever. That would sound almost like evolution. And then the other one here in chapter 2, verses 18 and 19, humans are made, and then the animals are made afterwards, and then God gets to name them or something. So that, again, that doesn't fit. And the other one, arguably, neither of them arguably fit. One of them's a little better than the other, I guess. So again, it's two completely contradictory things in the same book. One of them almost sounds like science. Does that mean that we should accept it?
Yeah, you're picking like one thing. I mean, because like in conjunction with calling like a whale, like any taxonomy claims that are there, they're just wrong, right? We don't have that type of taxonomy for some of the creatures that they. Like what is a creeping kind, right? When they talk about kind of, they're so vague. Like what is a creeping kind, right? It's not like they're giving any set like define parameters here or a criterion at which that we could work with. It's just you look at the work that's been done independent of these claims, right? That had nothing. You didn't have to add Yahweh or Jesus or any of that for us to find this, and then you like post hoc. This looks like it fits this vague notion that, by the way, is telling in many different creation stories, but you wouldn't say like, oh, it's sufficient for all of these claims to be true. Like, even if we granted like, okay, they're detailing it, so what? It doesn't mean that it follows that the claim is true, that like Christianity is true, because they could detail phenomena in such a vague way that it fits like our more like tedious understanding, right? That just doesn't follow. It seems really weak to me, if I'm honest.
Also, I just pulled up the verse that we were talking about earlier. You're right. From the water is from 120, and then on 219, that's where I got confused. On chapter 219, it says that God made all the animals out of the ground. So again, you've got two different verses that say totally different stuff. One of them is almost kind of sounding right, but not really.
Perhaps it's talking in the second one about the land animals, but all that aside, I'm not trying to convince you that there's a God per se. I'm just saying, don't you find that significant? That the Bible predicted long before we ever had any.
What prediction about natural selection or evolution, about alleles changing in a population over time? What prediction is made there? There's nothing. It doesn't talk about alleles changing. There's nothing about allele frequency in any population. So what predictions? Is that like? Let me ask you. Do you know what a prediction is in science? Because this isn't you're equivocating on prediction.
First, the water is bringing forth the creatures. Second, the water so it says that the fowls of the air. So it went from water to fowls of the air, right? Logically, why wouldn't you go to earth to fowls of the air? But we look at dinosaurs and we see that they resemble birds more than anything else, right? So right there, it's telling us that the waters brought forth the creatures. The creatures came to the sky. Then it gives a day and it says, let the birds multiply in the earth. And the earth brought forth, right? So it's giving a correlation of how things came to be. It's saying that the waters brought forth first. The creatures of the water went to the sky. The sky animals multiplied in the earth, right? And this is what we see with the dinosaurs.
And
that, like what I just said a minute ago, there are a lot of other creation stories that sound a lot more accurate or as accurate as that. Not all of them can be true, but they can all be wrong. So, like, why
Hinduism
do you take this one creation story to be significant?
4.3 billion year old Earth. Okay, it's what 4.54 if you Google it. I think that's really good. Do you think Hinduism is true? Right, that's not.
I'm not saying anything else is true. All I'm trying to get you to do is acknowledge that at least that fits the pattern of evolution. I'm not saying.
Fair. If you're not making that conclusion, that's fair. My point is that I don't see. Look, that seems really like, I don't know. It just seems very post hoc to me. It seems very like I can try to fit this vague description in the same way that someone does with like expanse, being talked about the universe in the Quran, but like. They didn't predict a helium hydrogen ratio, like 3-to-1 ratio. They didn't predict abundance of light elements. They didn't predict. When we talk about a prediction and you're saying it like predicts, you use that word predict, you're equivocating, because there's nothing like, they're not they're not detailing like a mechanism or that there's a wheel distribution. They're not doing any of that, right? So for what you're asking me to do is say, isn't that like pretty significant? No, because there's other creation stories, like Forrest said, that can detail something like that, if not better. And I care about sufficient reason to think that that's, tracking with the phenomena. I don't think that's sufficient. I think that it's likely somebody could have observed around them and detailed a way that they thought it was the case. And when you do it in such a vague fashion, I mean, it's not like when you're thrown at a dartboard, you have all these spaces. I mean, you're removing some of the spaces. You only have like a couple spots to hit when you make it so vague, right? It doesn't seem miraculous to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Anyway. I agree. It's very vague. I agree with you. But I mean, it does fit the pattern, and that's the point, right? As vague as it is.
Hold on. If you're admitting that it's
a lot of really important stuff out, so like that, kind of. If you ignore 98% of the pattern, it fits the pattern. But if I say the number is 1, 13, and 70, you cannot then say I now predicted how to count to 1,000 because I got some of it in a pattern. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, and
look, so I see what you're saying, that it's vague, and I agree that it's vague. I do agree. I'm not going to deny. That's all I have is those verses for this call. But the point is it does fit. And don't you think it's significant that it predicts the water
how are you going to say it's vague? And how are you going to say it's vague in one sense, and then say, isn't this like really significant? Well, no, it's really vague. So why is it going to be significant?
Point.
No, if it was a precise prediction,
those are the main points.
Yeah, if it was a precise prediction that's made by a hypothesis, that's one thing. That's not what's happening in this case. Look, Charles, we got a lot of callers. We want to make sure we get to all of them. Call back and try to talk other with hosts with this, but I feel like we're just gonna be saying the same things to each other, right?
Yeah, I don't find that significant at all, dude. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate your time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I just feel like we're just not gonna go anywhere with this.
No, for sure. God bless, guys. Thanks.
Have a good one.